Hello again. Welcome back to Year 5 of the Religious Education Initiative. This is Week 48, Day 1. Last time, we met King Hezekiah, who reigned in Judah at the time of the fall of Israel to the Assyrian Empire. Hezekiah was righteous and faithful to the Lord beyond any king before or after him, according to our chronicler, and he turned to the Lord in every circumstance. Assyria, however, is not content simply to demand tribute from Judah, but comes and demands that Jerusalem and all the surrounding country surrender and accept the same relocation that came to Israel at this time, with the people being picked up and transported and settled in another part of the Assyrian Empire. When we left off last time, the Assyrian general, the Rabshakeh, was outside Jerusalem demanding that the people surrender themselves to Assyrian rule. As we read on, we will see what comes of this. They just brought the news to King Hezekiah of what the Assyrian had said. When King Hezekiah heard it, he rent his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth and went into the house of the Lord. And he sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna the secretary, and the senior priests, covered with sackcloth, to the prophet Isaiah the son of Amoz. They said to him, "Thus says Hezekiah, this day is a day of distress, of rebuke, and of disgrace. Children have come to the birth, and there is no strength to bring them forth. It may be that the Lord your God heard all the words of the Rabshakeh, whom his master the king of Assyria has sent to mock the living God, and will rebuke the words which the Lord your God has heard. Therefore lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left." Then the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah. Isaiah said to them, "Say to your master, thus says the Lord, do not be afraid because of the words that you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have reviled me. Behold, I will put a spirit in him, so that he will hear a rumor and return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land." The Rabshakeh returned, and found the king of Assyria fighting against Libnah, for he heard that the king had left Lachish. And when the king heard concerning Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia, behold, he has set out to fight against you, he sent messengers again to Hezekiah, saying, "Thus shall you speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah. Do not let your God on whom you rely deceive you by promising that Jerusalem will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands, destroying them utterly. And shall you be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered them, the nations which my fathers destroyed, Gozan, Haran, Rezeph, and the people of Eden who were in Telassar? Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, the king of the city of Sarfavaim, the king of Hana, or the king of Ivach?" Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, "O Lord, the God of Israel, who are enthroned above the cherubim, you are the God, you alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open your eyes, O Lord, and see and hear the words of Sennacherib, which he has sent to mock the living God. Of a truth, O Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were no gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they were destroyed. So now, O Lord our God, save us, I beseech you, from your hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know that you, O Lord, alone are God." Then Isaiah the son of Amoz sent to Hezekiah, saying, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, your prayer to me about Sennacherib, king of Assyria, I have heard. This is the word that the Lord has spoken concerning him. She despises you, she scorns you, the virgin daughter of Zion. She wags her head behind you, the daughter of Jerusalem. Whom have you mocked and reviled? Against whom have you raised your voice and haughtily lifted your eyes? Against the Holy One of Israel. By your messengers you have mocked the Lord, and you have said, with many chariots I have gone up to the heights of the mountains, to the far recesses of Lebanon. I felled its tallest cedars, its choicest cypresses. I entered its farthest retreat, its densest forest. I dug wells and drank foreign waters, and I dried up with the sole of my foot all the streams of Egypt. Have you not heard that I determined it long ago? I planned from days of old what now I bring to pass, that you should turn fortified cities into heaps of ruins, while their inhabitants, shorn of strength, are dismayed and confounded, and have become like plants of the field and like tender grass, like grass on the housetops, blighted before it is grown. But I know you're sitting down, and you're going out, and you're coming in, and you're raging against me, because you have raged against me, and your arrogance has come into my ears. I will put my hook in your nose and my bit in your mouth, and I will turn you back on the way by which you came. And this shall be the sign for you. This year you shall eat. So before, God is speaking in poetry, effectively, to Sennacherib. Now he is speaking to Hezekiah. And this shall be the sign for you. This year you shall eat what grows of itself, and in the second year what springs of the same. Then in the third year sow, and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat their fruit. And the surviving remnant of the house of Judah shall again take root downward, and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go forth a remnant, and out of Mount Zion a band of survivors. The zeal of the Lord will do this. Therefore thus says the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, He shall not come into the city, or shoot an arrow there, or come before it with a shield, or cast up a siege mound against it. By the way that he came, by the same he shall return, and he shall not come into this city, says the Lord. For I will defend this city to save it, for my own sake, and for the sake of my servant David. And that night the angel of the Lord went forth, and slew 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. And when men arose early in the morning, behold, these were all dead bodies. Then Sennacherib king of Assyria departed, and went home, and dwelt at Nineveh. And, as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch his god, Adrammelech and Sharezer his sons slew him with the sword, and escaped into the land of Ararat. And Esarhaddon his son reigned in his stead. All right. So, what's happening here? Hezekiah sends messengers to Isaiah, and Isaiah says, don't be afraid. God will send Sennacherib home. Now, then the messenger from Sennacherib goes back to Sennacherib. He hears that he's left off fighting against one city and is now fighting against another fortified city. So he's sacking all the other fortified cities in Judea. Only Jerusalem, it seems, is left. And then Sennacherib himself hears that the king of Ethiopia is on his way to fight. So he, as it seems, he wants to reduce all of Judea as quickly as possible. So he sends a message back to Hezekiah in Jerusalem. And it may be that there's a spy inside, because it almost sounds as though he's responding to the word of Isaiah, that he, Sennacherib, will be sent home. He says, don't let your God on whom you rely deceive you by promising Jerusalem won't be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. So it wouldn't be surprising if there were someone in Jerusalem passing on word of what's happening to Sennacherib. Someone might be unfaithful. Someone might be afraid. That's my reading into it. But when Hezekiah receives the letter, he goes to the temple. He gives it to the Lord. He spreads it out in front of the temple and says, do you see and hear the words that Sennacherib has spoken, mocking you, the living God? He confesses that, yes, all the other gods of the nations have been destroyed and cast into the fire because they are not gods. But God, Yahweh, the God of Israel, is the God who created all things, the God above gods. He alone is truly God. And he asks to be saved. And Isaiah then sends God's reply to Hezekiah. And it's quick. And there is a word of prophecy, of mockery, of derision that is given to Sennacherib, saying, you think you are so strong, so mighty, don't you understand that everything you are doing has been determined by me long ago? I have delivered these people into your hand. And because you have raged against me, God says to Sennacherib, because you are arrogant, because you mock me, you will now be judged. And then he gives this sign to Hezekiah, which really speaks, I think, to where Hezekiah is. Jerusalem is the only thing that remains of Hezekiah's kingdom at this point. But God is saying, the first year after this, this is a sign of deliverance for you. The first year you will be fed by what grows of itself. So no one has been sowing crops. It's all been laid waste. But God is saying the food will spring up of itself, of its just the natural falling of its seed into the ground, and you will eat of that. And the second year you'll plant that, and you will eat that. The second year you'll eat again what springs of the same, right? And then the third year, then you will sow and reap and plant vineyards. And the remnant that has survived in Jerusalem will go out, and Judea will be built up again. the Lord will do this for you. So effectively, this is almost an end of the kingdom of Judah, and then a restoration. And then historically, we know what happens is this happens. Sennacherib is besieging Jerusalem, and then he does leave, and the story does go around. The Assyrians won't report this. They won't say that lots of their men were killed. But the Greeks, they heard the story, and Herodotus records that they were overwhelmed by mice, which means perhaps the angel of the Lord worked with a plague, and bubonic plague is carried by, we don't know. But something happens to the army of Sennacherib. Many of his soldiers are dead. Scholars argue about how many it could possibly have been. Maybe 185 is inflated. Again, people will have all sorts of arguments about it. But this is known. Sennacherib came to sack Jerusalem. And all his boasts were true. The Assyrians never turned away from a siege. But they turned away from this siege. And although Lord Byron was not a particularly moral man, he did write a poem about this that is worth reading. It's fun, if nothing else. So we'll read this. This was published first in 1815. The Assyrian came down like the wolf on the fold, and his cohorts were gleaming in purple and gold. And the sheen of their spears was like stars on the sea when the blue wave rolls nightly on deep Galilee. Like the leaves of the forest when summer is green, that host with their banners at sunset were seen. Like the leaves of the forest when autumn hath blown, that host on the morrow lay withered and strown. For the angel of death spread his wings on the blast, and breathed in the face of the foe as he passed. And the eyes of the sleepers waxed deadly and chill, and their hearts but once heaved, and forever grew still. And there lay the steed with his nostril all wide, but through it there rolled not the breath of his pride. And the foam of his gasping lay white on the turf, and cold as the spray of the rock-beating surf. And there lay the rider distorted and pale, with the dew on his brow and the rust on his mail. And the tents were all silent, the banners alone, the lances unlifted, the trumpet unblown. And the widows of Ashur are loud in their wail, and the idols are broke in the temple of Baal. And the might of the Gentile, unsmote by the sword, hath melted like snow in the glance of the Lord. So it's short, but it's effective, I think. Anyway, that's it for today. This is one of the great stories of the Old Testament. So I'm glad we got to read it. God bless you all. We'll see you shortly for day 2.